especially after the inauguration of the Republic, China has always pursued this industry capacity and technology autonomy. The first period, for the first 30 years, China learned a lot from the former Soviet Union, from our senior brother, Soviet Union. And we copied a lot, including weapon systems. And the heavy industries, so-called, especially the northern part of China. And then we turned toward the global market, especially after the 1970s, the repression between China and the United States. China deliberately integrated itself into the world capitalist system. We became a very active, export-oriented economy, a foreign model set up by Japan and South Korea, and so on. And we became a more and more important player in the global supply chain, which was a period during 1980s and 2008. But what really happened, what's really important for today's topic is the transformation of China in its role, the change of its role in the global supply chain, both economically, technologically, as well as politically. China tried to climb up the ladder of the industry, tried to develop its own supply chain from just the beginning of the research and technology. And to some extent, we should thank people like President Donald Trump, because his deglobalization effort failed to, contain China's development, but rather stimulate, accelerate China's self-reliance on the key technologies. For example, the rare earth against chip sanction fight last year. Since 2017, around that period, the United States started to sanction Chinese high-tech companies like Zhongxin. Now, that was a humiliation of China. But they failed to kill Zhongxin. Instead, they stimulated the Chinese community of business, as well as the government, as well as the strategists, scholars. The whole nation will mobilize, say, it seems that we cannot trust, no longer trust the global supply chain, no longer trust the United States, no longer trust on the continuity of the globalization. Hence, since then, companies, big companies like Huawei started to build up its own technology from the bottom up. So step by step, the more sanctions the United States impose on China, the higher tariff that Donald Trump imposed on China, the more resolute and more readiness China is embracing the self-reliance. And to be honest, last year and this year, I believe President Donald Trump faced two serious defeats. The first defeat was during its tariff war against the whole world. Actually, he won almost everything against almost every nation, every trade partner, except for China. China is the only nation who stands up and escalate till the tariff rate of 145%, which means de facto embargo against each other. And then he tried to postpone the show hand again and again, and the recent postponement is for 1 year, okay? Which is very reminiscent of what happens between the United States and Iran, because he started to the military bully against some so-called anti-American middle powers. They started from countries like Venezuela. He made that very easily, which encouraged him to be rude and antagonistic and arrogant. But Iran is different. The Iranians' resistance used them successfully 40 days, as just now Ambassador had mentioned, defeated this military, pressure, high pressure, because so far we cannot celebrate the final victory so far, because some people argue that the coming 14 days will be the preparation period for another round of military operations. But in the past 2 years, or less than 2 years, President Donald Trump has been defeated twice. One is in his trade war against China, the other is in the military operations in the Middle East. Okay, so which gives us some hope that this grand transformation of the global order may result in a relatively equal, relatively justice, new international order. Then I would like to address a little bit about this. What is the essence? From academic, as a professor, I always think about things not only from policy perspective, but also from academic perspective. From academic perspective, what is this transformation about? In the past decade, I have been indulging in the research of the globalization as well as the deglobalization. Okay. This round of globalization started from 1945, actually. During the Cold War, after Second World War, during the Cold War, there were globalizations at the same time. One is around the Soviet Union, one is around the United States. And since 1980s, we have a united globalization, which is everything around the United States, US capital. But after 2008, according to my statistical research, this globalization trend has been going down into a from a bull market to a bear market. And so far it's already 18 years. How long it will last? If we look at back on history, last time these indexes falling down, the bear market, was between 1914 to 1945, in which the theme of the era is to about solve the problem of rise of German nation. There were 2 world wars to break German nations down and into 2 pieces. And this time, because of nuclear thing, because of some other elements, we are experiencing a relatively mild period of deglobalization, but I'm afraid it will last longer than the last one. Last time it was 31 years. This time I'm afraid it will last more than 40 years. Yeah. So I expect by 2050, or even later on, we can find a new period of stability, of a new equilibrium among the big powers. And how can we survive this chaotic, unstable, unpredictable, and a risky transitional period? My answer, or I should say, it's not my personal answer, but Chinese answer, raised by President Xi Jinping. In President Xi Jinping's theoretical framework, his personal creation of some terms, he created a term called 百年未有之大变局, the big transformation unwitnessed for a century. So which is comparable to what we discussed the last deglobalization period about solving the problem of rise of German nations.